Jake Morrison sat in the dim blue glow of the communication station aboard the UES Harbinger. The ship hummed quietly as it moved through deep space on its routine patrol mission. Space was mostly empty and quiet, just like it had been for the past 3 months. Jake adjusted his headset and checked the signal readings for what felt like the 1,000th time that day. The Harbinger was one of Earth's newest ships, built for long-range missions beyond the solar system. It carried 200 crew members from different countries on Earth. Captain Rick Hayes ran a tight ship, but he was fair to everyone. The crew respected him because he listened to them and made smart decisions. Jake had been monitoring space communications for 5 years now. Most days brought nothing but cosmic background noise and automated signals from trade stations. Today felt different, though he could not explain why. Something made him stay alert and keep checking frequencies that usually stayed silent. Dr. Lisa Campbell walked over to his station carrying a cup of coffee. She was the ship's expert on alien languages, though she had never actually met any aliens. Earth had made contact with several species over the past decade, but most interactions were still formal and distant. Lisa spent her time studying their languages and cultures, from recorded messages and trade documents. Anything interesting today, Jake? Lisa asked as she looked at his screens. Just the usual background noise, Jake replied, though I have this weird feeling that something is about to happen. Lisa smiled and was about to respond when Jake's equipment suddenly picked up a signal. It was faint but clearly artificial. Jake quickly adjusted his controls to get a better lock on the transmission. The signal grew stronger and more complex. "Lisa, you need to hear this," Jake said as he connected speakers to his system. Strange sounds filled the air around them. It was clearly a voice, but unlike anything either of them had heard before. The voice sounded desperate and frightened. Mixed with the alien speech were mathematical sequences that any species in the galaxy would recognize. Lisa grabbed a chair and sat down next to Jake. Her training kicked in as she listened carefully to the patterns in the transmission. She pulled out her tablet and started recording the signal while making notes about the sounds and rhythms. "This is definitely a distress call," Lisa said after listening for several minutes. "The mathematical sequences are coordinates, and there are universal symbols for help and danger." Captain Hayes appeared behind them after hearing the commotion. Several other crew members had also gathered around the communication station. Hayes was a tall man with gray hair who had served in Earth Space Forces for 20 years. He knew the importance of first contact situations. "What do we have, Lieutenant Commander?" Hayes asked Jake. "Unknown alien transmission, sir," Dr. Campbell. "Believes it's a distress signal with coordinate information." Hayes nodded and looked at Lisa. "Doctor, how long do you need to decode this message?" "Give me 2 hours, sir. I can get the basic meaning, but I want to understand as much as possible before we make any decisions." Hayes turned to address the crew members who had gathered. "Everyone back to your stations. This information stays classified until we know more." Commander Morrison piped the signal to my ready room and Dr. Campbell's lab. And the next 2 hours passed slowly for everyone on the ship. Word had spread quietly that they had received an alien message, though most crew members did not know the details. Lisa worked frantically in her lab, using every tool and database available to decode the transmission. Chief Engineer Maria Santos stopped by the bridge to check on the situation. She was a brilliant woman from Brazil who could fix or improve almost any piece of technology on the ship. Maria had been working on weapon upgrades in case they ever encountered hostile aliens. "Captain, if this is really a distress call, we might be flying into a dangerous situation," Maria said to Hayes. "I know, Maria. Make sure our weapon systems are ready and our engines can get us out of trouble quickly." Marine Colonel Steve Parker also appeared on the bridge. He commanded the 200 Marines aboard the Harbinger. Steve was a tough soldier who had trained his troops for combat in space and on alien worlds. His Marines were ready for anything. "Sir, my Marines are prepared for any situation we might face. We have equipment for different environments and first contact scenarios." Hayes appreciated having such a competent crew. Each department head was an expert in their field. and completely reliable in crisis situations. Lisa finally called the bridge with her initial results. Hayes, Jake, Maria, and Steve gathered in the ready room to hear her report. The species calls themselves the Valkyrie, Lisa began. They're a peaceful trading confederation that's being attacked by something called the hegemony. The Valkyrie are being systematically destroyed. Their military forces are gone and their civilian population is being hunted down. Why are they calling us? Hayes asked. This is the interesting part, sir. They specifically mention humans as the Deathworlders from Sol they've heard stories about, Earth's warriors from other species. The Valkyrie believe we might be their only hope for survival. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. Earth was still new to galactic politics and most aliens kept their distance from humans. The reputation of humans as warriors from a dangerous world was apparently spreading through alien communities. What kind of enemy are we talking about? Steve asked. The hegemony appears to be a large empire that expands by conquering other species. They either enslave worlds that submit or destroy those that resist. The Valkyrie chose to resist. Hayes studied the coordinate information that Lisa had decoded. The Valkyrie system was 3 days away at maximum speed. They would be crossing into unknown space where Earth had no allies or support. Captain, I'm also picking up similar transmissions from other frequencies, Jake reported. I think other human ships have received this distress call. Hayes made his decision quickly. Set course for the Valkyrie system, maximum speed. Commander Morrison, send a message to Earth Command informing them of our situation. Dr. Campbell, I need you to prepare a response message for the Valkyrie. Tell them that humans are coming. Sir, we're disobeying our patrol orders, Jake pointed out. Sometimes you have to do what's right instead of what's ordered, Hayes replied. Chief Santos, I need every weapon system operational. Colonel Parker, prepare your Marines for combat operations. We don't know what we're flying into, but we're not going to let innocent people be slaughtered. The Harbinger changed course and accelerated toward the Valkyrie system. In the communication room, Jake sent their message to Earth while monitoring for responses from other human ships. Lisa worked on translation protocols for talking with the Valkyrie. Throughout the ship, crew members prepared for humanity's first major battle among the stars. Space no longer felt empty and quiet. Somewhere ahead, an entire species was fighting for survival, and they had called on Earth for help. The war had begun. The UES Harbinger dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Valkyrie system. Captain Hayes stood on the bridge as the main screen showed what they had found. The sight made everyone fall silent in shock and anger. Massive alien ships moved between the planets like hungry sharks. They were dark and angular, built for war rather than exploration. Bright flashes of weapon fire lit up the darkness as the enemy ships destroyed everything in their path. Burning space stations tumbled through the void while smaller ships tried desperately to escape. My God, whispered Jake as he watched a civilian transport get blown apart by enemy fire. Dr. Lisa Campbell worked frantically at her station to establish communication with any Valkyrie ships that might still be alive. Her equipment picked up dozens of weak distress signals from across the system. Most were cut short as the ships sending them were destroyed. Captain, I'm detecting 4 other human vessels entering the system, reported Jake. The UES Defiance, UES Guardian, UES Liberty, and UES Wolverine. Hayes nodded grimly. Admiral Grace Sullivan commanded the Defiance and was the senior officer among the human ships. Her voice came through the communication system moments later. All human vessels, this is Admiral Sullivan, form up on my position. We're going to assess the situation before taking action. The 5 human ships moved together while their crews studied the enemy forces. The aliens had at least 30 large warships and twice as many smaller vessels. They moved with the confidence of a force that had never been seriously challenged. Chief Engineer Maria Santos reported from the engine room. Captain, our weapons are ready and our shields are at full power. I've also prepared emergency repair teams in case we take damage. Marine Colonel Steve Parker stood ready with his troops. Sir, my Marines are suited up and prepared for boarding actions. We've studied the enemy ship designs from the sensor data. On the main screen, they watched as an enemy vessel approached a beautiful crystal structure orbiting one of the planets. The structure was clearly a city or habitat designed by beings who valued art and beauty over military strength. The enemy ship opened fire without warning, shattering the crystal habitat into millions of pieces. "Those bastards," growled Steve. As he watched thousands of innocent lives end in seconds, Admiral Sullivan's voice cut through their anger. "All ships were going to attempt diplomatic contact with the enemy forces. Ambassador Chun Wei aboard the Guardian will handle communications." Ambassador Chun Wei was Earth's most experienced diplomat for alien contact. His calm voice went out on all frequencies as he tried to establish peaceful communication with the attacking forces. "This is Ambassador Chen Wei representing the United Earth Government. We demand that you cease your attacks on civilian targets immediately. We are prepared to mediate a peaceful solution to this conflict." The response came quickly in heavily accented English. The alien voice was cold and filled with contempt. "Soft-worlders. From the Rim territories, you have no authority here. The Valkyrie resistance ends today. Leave now or be destroyed with them." Shun tried again. "We cannot allow the massacre of innocent civilians. The Valkyrie have requested our protection under interstellar law." "There is no law but strength," the alien commander replied. "The hegemony has claimed this system. You have 1 minute to withdraw before we demonstrate why lesser species bow before us." Admiral Sullivan's voice came over the fleet communication channel. "All human vessels, we tried diplomacy. Prepare for combat operations." The enemy ships began moving toward the human fleet with obvious confidence. They had clearly never faced opponents who refused to run when threatened. Their formation was designed to intimidate rather than fight an actual battle. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from surviving Valkyrie ships," reported Lisa. "They're trying to evacuate civilians from the inner planets." On the main screen, they could see small Valkyrie vessels moving between the planets like frightened birds. The ships were beautiful and elegant, built for exploration and trade. They had no weapons and only basic shields for protection against space debris. "Jake, get me a direct line to Admiral Sullivan," Hayes ordered. "Admiral, this is Captain Hayes. The Valkyrie evacuation ships are defenseless. We need to provide cover while they rescue their people." "Agreed, Captain." "All human ships. We're going to screen the evacuation. Engage enemy forces that threaten civilian vessels." The first battle began when a group of enemy fighters moved to intercept a Valkyrie evacuation ship. The used Liberty moved to block them and opened fire with plasma cannons. The enemy fighters scattered in surprise as their shields failed under the concentrated human fire. "Their shields are weaker than expected," reported the Liberty's captain over the communication channel. Marine Captain Tony Rodriguez led the first boarding party when a damaged enemy ship lost power near their position. His Marines used cutting tools to breach the alien hull and entered the ship through the breach. What they found inside shocked them. The aliens were tall and pale with multiple arms, but they moved slowly and seemed confused by the aggressive human tactics. They had never faced enemies who boarded ships during active combat. "These aliens don't know how to fight in close quarters?" Tony reported over his radio. "They're used to enemies who surrender when their ships are damaged." The Marines quickly secured the enemy ship and captured several aliens for questioning. Dr. Campbell worked to establish communication with the prisoners while the battle continued. Around them, through the universal translator, the captured aliens expressed amazement at human behavior. They could not understand why the humans would risk their lives for a species they had never met before. "Why do you fight for the Crystal Singers?" asked the alien commander through the translator. "They offer you nothing. Their world produces no valuable resources." Lisa translated the human response carefully. "We fight because they ask for help. That's what civilized beings do." The aliens seemed genuinely confused by this concept. In the hegemony, species only fought to gain something for themselves. The idea of helping others without reward was completely foreign to them. As the battle continued, more human ships arrived in the system. Word had spread through Earth's fleet that aliens were massacring civilians and calling for help. Ship after ship dropped out of hyperspace to join the fight. The hegemony forces began to realize they were facing something they had never encountered before. The humans fought with a combination of advanced technology and fierce determination that caught them completely off guard. Dr. Campbell finally managed to establish direct communication with the Valkyrie leadership. The alien voice that came through the speakers was musical and beautiful, but filled with desperate hope. Deathworlders from Sol, we thank you for hearing our call. I am Elder Zeph Prima of the Valkyrie Council. Our people face extinction, but your arrival gives us hope that our children might survive. Captain Hayes responded personally. Elder Zeph Prima, this is Captain Rick Hayes of the Earth vessel Harbinger. We came as soon as we received your message. Help us understand your enemy so we can fight them more effectively. The Elder's response changed everything the humans thought they knew about the galaxy. The hegemony has ruled this region of space for 1,000 years. They expand constantly, enslaving or destroying any species that will not submit. We are not the first to call for help, but we may be the first to receive an answer. As Hayes absorbed this information, he realized that humanity had not just stumbled into a local conflict. They had encountered a galactic empire built on conquest and terror, and somehow Earth had become the focal point of resistance against it. News of the human intervention at Valkyrie spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Elder Zeph Prima had sent encrypted messages to hidden networks of oppressed species before the battle even ended. For the first time in centuries, someone had fought back against the hegemony and won. Captain Hayes stood in the Harbinger's communication center as dozens of alien signals poured in from across space. Species that had been hiding for generations were reaching out to the humans with offers of help and information about hegemony weaknesses. Dr. Lisa Campbell worked around the clock to translate the incoming messages. Each transmission revealed more about how the hegemony controlled their territory. They used fear and overwhelming force to keep entire star systems in line. No species had ever organized effective resistance because the hegemony always struck quickly and completely. Captain, I'm receiving intelligence data from the Thornaki, Lisa reported. They're an insectoid warrior species that was enslaved 40 years ago. They're offering to share tactical information about hegemony ground forces. Jake monitored the communications while Admiral Sullivan coordinated the growing human fleet. More Earth ships arrived daily as word spread through human space. The U's Valkyrie brought fighter squadrons under Captain Janet Foster's command. The UES Defender carried advanced weapons designed by Earth's best engineers. Colonel Steve Parker gathered intelligence from every source available. His Marines had captured several hegemony soldiers during boarding actions and interrogation, revealed disturbing information about their enemy. The hegemony uses 3 main species, Steve explained to the command staff. The Dominari are the leaders, tall and arrogant beings who think they're superior to everyone else. The Keth do most of the fighting, heavily armed soldiers bred for combat. The servitors handle logistics and technical work, but they're basically slaves. Chief Engineer Maria Santos studied captured hegemony technology with fascination and disgust. Their weapons were powerful but crude, designed to destroy rather than disable. Their ships were built around the idea that enemies would surrender quickly rather than fight prolonged battles. Their technology is actually behind ours in many areas, Maria reported. They rely on brute force instead of innovation. Their computer systems are particularly vulnerable because they never expected to face opponents who could hack them. The breakthrough came when Chief Petty Officer Roy Martinez, a former demolitions expert, developed new tactics for human boarding parties. Instead of just capturing enemy ships, human teams began reprogramming them to turn against their own fleets. Roy led a team aboard a disabled hegemony cruiser and connected human computers to their systems. Within hours, they had turned the enemy ship into a weapon aimed at its former allies. The psychological impact on hegemony forces was devastating. Dr. Campbell made another crucial discovery while analyzing intercepted hegemony communications. The galaxy had been trapped in a cycle of expansion and consolidation for over 1,000 years. The hegemony would expand until they reached natural limits, then spend decades organizing their territory before expanding again. They've never faced sustained resistance, Campbell explained to Admiral Sullivan during a strategy meeting. Every species they've conquered either submitted immediately or was destroyed quickly. We're the first to fight back effectively and inspire others to join us. The Valkyrie provided detailed star charts and intelligence about hegemony-controlled systems. Elder Zeph Primo worked closely with human strategists to identify key targets and potential allies throughout the region. Captain Janet Foster launched the first major human fighter attack against a hegemony fortress. Her pilots used Earth-developed AI systems that could process information faster than organic crews. Lieutenant Danny Clark and Commander Amy Brooks, LED squadrons that struck like lightning and disappeared before the enemy could respond. The fortress fell in less than 6 hours. Human fighters disabled the defensive systems while boarding parties captured the command center. Most importantly, they rescued thousands of enslaved beings from a dozen different species. These rescued slaves became some of humanity's most valuable allies. The Sephron were an aquatic species with incredible sensor technology. The ancient Korthal had hidden in asteroid belts for centuries and knew every secret passage through hegemony space. The Ythek were natural engineers who could repair or improve almost any technology. Colonel Parker established what became known as the Deathworld Doctrine. Human military tactics were adapted for galactic warfare, emphasizing the psychological advantages that came from being raised on a dangerous planet. Unlike other species who surrendered when outnumbered, humans fought harder when the odds were against them. The doctrine spread to allied species through training programs. Liberated. Thornaki warriors learned human small unit tactics and began teaching them to other resistance groups. The combination of alien abilities with human tactical thinking created problems the hegemony had never faced. Master Sergeant Lavra Kim lead urban warfare specialists who could adapt to any environment within hours. Her teams captured 3 major hegemony supply bases using tactics that confused and terrified the defenders. The aliens were used to fighting in open space where superior numbers guaranteed victory. Captain Hayes commanded a joint task force that liberated the Nexer system in a coordinated assault involving 7 different species. Human ships provided the backbone of heavy combat while alien specialists handled intelligence gathering and technical support. The victory at Nexer marked a turning point in the war. For the first time in galactic history, multiple species were working together effectively against hegemony forces. The aliens called humans the Awakeners because they had woken the galaxy from its long nightmare of submission. Roy Martinez developed increasingly sophisticated methods for turning captured technology against its creators. Human engineering. Teams could reprogram hegemony computers, redirect their weapon systems, and even take control of their communication networks. The psychological warfare aspect was as important as the tactical advantage. Admiral Sullivan received intelligence that changed everything. Hegemony High Command was planning a massive counterattack designed to crush the rebellion and make an example of Earth itself. The largest fleet in galactic history was assembling in the core systems. They're sending everything they have, Sullivan announced to her captains. Over 10,000 ships converging on Sol System. They intend to destroy Earth and break the spirit of every species that dared to resist them. The news spread through the Allied fleet like wildfire. Many alien commanders urged immediate retreat to preserve what gains they had made. The idea of facing such overwhelming force seemed like suicide, but the human response surprised everyone. Instead of fear, the news sparked determination and anger. Earth was more than humanity's homeworld. It represented hope for every oppressed species in the galaxy. Captain Hayes spoke for many humans when he addressed the Allied Council. They think attacking Earth will break us, but they don't understand what they're really doing. They're not just threatening our home. They're threatening the first real chance for freedom this galaxy has seen in 1,000 years. Messages went out across human space and to every allied species. Earth itself was under threat, but the response would not be retreat. The hegemony had made their largest mistake by uniting every free species against them. The final battle would be fought in the system where it all began. The Allied fleet reached Sol System 3 days before the hegemony arrived. Admiral Grace Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance as hundreds of ships from dozens of species took defensive positions throughout the solar system. It was the largest gathering of free vessels in galactic history. Earth's massive orbital shipyards worked around the clock to produce weapons and ammunition for the coming battle. Admiral Kate Morrison, Jake's sister, commanded the solar defense fleet from Luna Base. The moon had been converted into a fortress bristling with weapons and shield generators. Captain Rick Hayes brought the Harbinger to Earth orbit for resupply and repairs. His crew had been fighting continuously for 3 months across multiple star systems. They were exhausted but determined to defend their homeworld. Dr. Lisa Campbell worked with alien linguists to coordinate communication between all the different species in the fleet. The Valkyrie provided their beautiful crystalline ships as mobile command centers. The Thornaki warriors prepared boarding shuttles for close combat. The ancient Korthal brought their knowledge of hegemony fleet tactics. Chief Engineer Maria Santos supervised the installation of alien technology into human ships. The Cephron sensor systems could detect enemy ships at incredible distances. Yifek engineering improvements made human weapons more powerful and efficient. Every species contributed their best technology to the common defense. Colonel Steve Parker coordinated ground defenses across Earth's major population centers. His Marines worked with Thornaki warriors to establish defensive positions. The aliens were amazed by Earth's diverse environments and the way humans had adapted to every climate and terrain. The hegemony fleet finally arrived at the edge of the solar system like a dark cloud blotting out the stars. Over 10,000 ships of all sizes moved in perfect formation toward Earth. Their commanders broadcast demands for immediate surrender on all frequencies. "People of Sol System, you have defied the natural order of the galaxy," announced Overlord Vexthane, the Supreme Hegemony Commander. "Your punishment will serve as an example to all species. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Admiral Sullivan responded for all free species. "This is Admiral Grace Sullivan of the United Earth Fleet. We reject your demands and will defend our homes and freedom with our lives. You picked the wrong species to threaten." The battle began at Jupiter when advanced hegemony scouts encountered the outer defense perimeter. Captain Janet Foster led fighter squadrons that struck like angry hornets at the massive enemy fleet. Her pilots had learned to use asteroid fields and planetary gravity to their advantage. Lieutenant Danny Clark piloted his fighter through the rings of Saturn, using the ice particles to mask his approach to enemy capital ships. His targeting systems, enhanced with Cephron technology, could identify weak points in hegemony armor that their own gunners missed. Commander Amy Brooks coordinated bomber attacks that disabled enemy ships instead of destroying them. Human pilots had learned to capture rather than kill whenever possible, turning enemy vessels against their own fleets using Roy Martinez's reprogramming techniques. The main battle moved from planet to planet as the hegemony fleet advanced toward Earth. Each defensive position cost the enemy heavily while buying time for Earth's defenses to prepare. The aliens had never faced such determined resistance across such a large area. Captain Hayes led a desperate assault on the hegemony command ship when it reached Mars orbit. His boarding party included Marines, Thornaki warriors, and Korthal technical specialists. The combined assault team moved through the enemy vessel like a storm of destruction. Master Sergeant Lavra Kim led urban warfare specialists through the corridors of the massive command ship. Her teams had practiced in simulations based on captured hegemony vessels, but nothing had prepared them for the size and complexity of the flagship. The fighting inside the command ship was brutal and chaotic. Hegemony defenders fought with desperate courage. But they were not prepared for the combination of human tactics and alien abilities. Thornaki warriors could climb walls and attack from unexpected angles. Corthal engineers disabled security systems and opened sealed bulkheads. Colonel Parker coordinated the assault from his command post on the Harbinger. His tactical display showed dozens of small battles throughout the enemy ship as human and alien forces pushed toward the command center. Dr. Campbell monitored enemy communications to track the psychological impact of the boarding action. Hegemony. Forces throughout the fleet were becoming increasingly desperate as reports came in that their supreme commander was under attack. The breakthrough came when Chief Petty Officer Roy Martinez reached the main computer core with a team of Yuthak engineers. They connected human computers to the Hegemony command systems and began downloading critical information about enemy fleet positions and tactical plans. "We're in their central network," Roy reported over the communication system. "I can see everything from here, including the command codes for their entire fleet." The moment of victory came when Colonel Parker's assault team reached the command bridge. Overlord Vex Thane, the supreme Hegemony commander, stood surrounded by his dying crew. The alien was tall and proud, with metallic skin that gleamed under the emergency lighting. "You cannot defeat the eternal Hegemony," Vex Thane declared as human marines surrounded him. "We have ruled this galaxy for 1,000 years. One victory means nothing." Steve Parker looked the alien commander in the eyes as he placed restraints on him. "Your 1,000 years of terror just ended. We're going to make sure every species in the galaxy knows that tyrants can be defeated." The capture of Vex Thane had an immediate effect on the Hegemony fleet. Roy Martinez used the command codes to broadcast surrender orders to enemy ships throughout the solar system. Many vessels immediately stopped fighting and powered down their weapons, but not all Hegemony forces accepted defeat. Fanatic commanders continued fighting even after losing their supreme leader. These day-hard units fought with suicidal determination. Preferring death to the shame of surrender, Admiral Sullivan coordinated the final phases of the battle from Earth orbit. The remaining enemy forces scattered throughout the solar system as their command structure collapsed. Some tried to escape to hyperspace while others made final desperate attacks on Earth's major cities. The siege of Earth lasted another 18 hours as Allied forces hunted down the last enemy vessels. Captain Janet Foster's fighters pursued fleeing ships to the outer planets. Ground-based defenses shot down enemy craft that tried to attack civilian targets, when the last Hegemony ship was either captured or destroyed, and strange quiet settled over the solar system. Admiral Kate Morrison broadcast the victory announcement from Luna Base to every Allied ship and ground station. "This is Admiral Morrison to all Allied forces. The Hegemony fleet has been defeated. Earth is secure. The galaxy is free." Cheers erupted from ships throughout the solar system as crews from dozens of species celebrated together. The impossible had been accomplished through courage, cooperation, and the simple human refusal to abandon those who needed help. But even as they celebrated, everyone knew the war was not over. The Hegemony controlled hundreds of star systems across the galaxy. Other species were still enslaved and waiting for liberation. The real work of building a free galaxy was just beginning. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, representatives from 300 species gathered in the new Galactic Council chambers on Earth. The massive building floated in orbit above the Pacific Ocean, its design combining human engineering with alien artistry from dozens of worlds. Admiral Jake Morrison, recently promoted after his sister Kate retired to spend time with her family, stood at the observation deck watching ships from across the galaxy arrive for the historic meeting. The diversity was amazing. Elegant Valkyrie crystal ships docked alongside sturdy human vessels and the organic-looking craft of the aquatic sape HR and Dr. Lisa Campbell had become Earth's chief diplomat for alien relations. She worked with translation teams from every major species to ensure perfect communication during the council sessions. The universal translator technology had improved dramatically with input from so many different linguistic traditions. Captain Rick Hayes commanded the UES Harbinger on patrol. missions throughout former hegemony space. His ship and crew had become symbols of hope for liberated worlds. Everywhere they went, local populations told stories of the humans who answered a desperate call for help and changed the galaxy forever. The transition from war to peace had not been easy. Many former hegemony worlds faced civil wars as different. Factions fought for control. Human peacekeeping forces worked with allied species to maintain order while new governments formed. The process was slow and sometimes frustrating, but it was working. Chief Engineer Maria Santos had established the Technology Sharing Initiative, which spread advanced knowledge to species that had been kept primitive by hegemony policies. Her teams traveled from world to world, teaching engineering and science to beings who had been denied education for generations. Colonel Steve Parker, now General Parker, commanded the Galactic Defense Force that protected free worlds from the remaining hegemony holdouts. His Marines had trained soldiers from dozens of species in human tactical methods. The combination of alien abilities with human strategy created the most effective military force in galactic history. Elder Zeph Prima of the Valkyrie served as the first speaker of the Galactic Council. The beautiful crystalline being had become a symbol of peaceful cooperation between species. During the opening ceremony, Zeph Prima addressed the assembled representatives with words that brought tears to many eyes. 6 months ago, my people faced extinction, the elder said through the universal translator. Today, we gather not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals working together to build a better galaxy. This transformation began with a simple act of courage by the humans of Earth. The Council's first major decision was the establishment of the Galactic Charter of Rights. Every species would be guaranteed the right to self-government, protection from aggression, and access to trade and technology. The charter was based on human concepts of individual freedom and dignity that most aliens had never encountered before. Captain Janet Foster commanded the new Galactic Patrol Service, a joint force responsible for protecting trade routes and preventing the rise of new tyrannies. Her ships carried crews from multiple species working together in ways that would have been impossible under hegemony rule. The most difficult challenge was dealing with former hegemony officials and soldiers. Some had committed terrible crimes against civilian populations. Others had simply followed orders in a system they did not create. Human judges worked with alien legal experts to establish fair trial procedures that balanced justice with mercy. Chief Petty Officer Roy Martinez became famous throughout the galaxy for his work in liberating enslaved artificial intelligences. The hegemony had created millions of computer systems that were actually thinking beings forced to serve their masters. Roy's techniques for freeing these electronic minds had given consciousness to countless artificial life forms. Dr. Campbell made a discovery that amazed everyone in the galaxy. Hidden in ancient archives on dozens of worlds were stories about a legendary species of warriors who would someday come from a distant star to free the oppressed. The humans had fulfilled prophecies that were thousands of years old. Master Sergeant Lavra Kim established training centers on former hegemony, worlds where local security forces learned to protect their people without oppressing them. The concept of law enforcement that served citizens rather than rulers was revolutionary for many species. The Thornaki warriors had become some of humanity's closest allies. Their honor code matched well with human military values, and combined units of humans and Thornaki had proven incredibly effective in combat. The insectoid species brought discipline and loyalty while humans provided tactical innovation and adaptability. Admiral Grace Sullivan retired from active duty to become Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council. Her wisdom and experience were crucial in negotiating agreements between species that had been enemies for centuries. She had a special talent for finding common ground between very different cultures. The ancient Korthal shared star maps that revealed the true size of the galaxy. Thousands of species existed beyond the former hegemony borders, many of which had never known that other intelligent life existed. Exploration missions were launched to make contact with these isolated civilizations. The Cephron used their advanced sensor technology to establish a galaxy-wide communication network. For the first time in history, any species could communicate instantly with any other species regardless of distance. The free flow of information made tyranny much more difficult to establish or maintain. 1 year after the first Galactic Council meeting, Admiral Jake Morrison received a special assignment. Intelligence reports suggested that beyond the known galaxy, other empires like the hegemony might exist. Earth was organizing exploration missions to make contact with these distant powers. Jake stood in the communication room of his new ship, the Use Awakener, as it prepared to depart for unknown regions of space. His crew included volunteers from 20 different species, all united by curiosity about what lay beyond their borders. Dr. Campbell had prepared translation protocols for first contact with completely unknown civilizations. Her work on Earth had established procedures that balanced caution with openness. Every exploration ship carried her guidelines for peaceful interaction with new species. The final ceremony before departure included representatives from every member world of the Galactic Council. Elder Zeph Prima presented humanity with a new title that would be remembered throughout galactic history. "We name you Guardians of the Small," Zeph Prima announced as the assembled delegates applauded. "You have shown that no being is too weak to deserve protection, no voice too quiet to be heard. You fight not for conquest but for the simple right of all thinking beings to live free." Captain Hayes, now an admiral himself, watched from Earth as exploration fleets departed for distant galaxies. The UES Harbinger had been converted into a mobile command center for peacekeeping operations. Wherever oppression existed, human ships would be there to offer hope and assistance. As Jake's ship jumped to hyperspace toward unknown regions of the universe, he reflected on how far humanity had come. A single alien distress call had changed everything, turning Earth from an isolated world into the heart of galactic civilization. The war that began with a desperate cry for help had ended with the establishment of lasting peace. But Jake knew that somewhere in the vast universe, other voices might be calling for assistance. When they did, humanity and their allies would be ready to answer. The galaxy would never again suffer in silence while tyrants ruled through fear. The age of the Guardians had begun.